Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mickey C, and recently I've just been scrolling through op.gg as always, looking at high win rates, looking at different item builds and to see what's going on, what's trending, and then I see in Korea that Cassiopeia has the third highest win rate in the mid lane with 55%, which is much higher than any other region. And I wanted to know why, so I looked into it a little deeper. So I firstly looked at the three major regions, and as I said before, Cassiopeia has the third highest win rate in Korea. Then we look at EU West, she has the 7th highest win rate, and then in NA she has the 11th highest win rate, which is not bad, but why is Korea so much better with Cassiopeia? So firstly, let's look at item builds. So in Korea, the two most played item builds include the three items Abyssal Scepter, Morellonomicon, and Archangel Staff. And then those two item builds also have the highest win rate. Now let's compare those to the other servers. Now firstly, looking at EU West, well, looks like they are way behind the times. They're still building Rod of Ages on Cassiopeia. I'm not saying Rod of Ages is a bad item, but maybe there's something better out there. Just maybe. By the looks of things, they don't even consider Morellonomicon, and they also seem to like Rylais as well. Now secondly, looking at the NA item builds, well, they're a bit closer to the Korean build. They at least try out Morellonomicon, and they've got Rod of Ages there as well, but they seem to be a big fan of Rylais as well. But can you even consider NA, because they barely even play the champion? They've only got like 40 to 30 games on each item build, while Korea and EU West have got hundreds and hundreds more. So NA, you may as well remove Cassiopeia from the NA server. So without further ado, let's find out how Koreans play Cassiopeia. So firstly, runes. You want to take a rune page similar to this, so you guys can just pause the video and copy this rune page if you want to. As for mastery pages, the most common and probably the best keystone mastery right now is Deathfire Touch, so you could take a mastery page similar to this, 18012. There also has been a trend by challenger and master tier players to take the keystone Storm Raider Surge. They would take a mastery page similar to this, 12180. I guess if you want more damage, you would go with Deathfire Touch, and if you want more mobility and movement speed, you would go with Storm Raider Surge. Thunderlord's Decree is also another viable option, but it seems to be slowly shifting out of the Cassiopeia meta as people are turning to other mastery pages. So overall, I would recommend Deathfire Touch, which is much better late game, and Cass is all about that late game. Summoner spells, you want to take TP or Ignite depending on your playstyle, but if you haven't played Cassiopeia before and you just want to try it out, I recommend taking TP. It's just a much safer option. Now into the laning phase. You want to start Twin Fang, which is E. For the most part, you should be looking to last hit minions using E, and then every now and then you can poke the enemy champion with E. Just be careful of spamming your Twin Fang on the enemy champion, because you will lose mana very, very quickly. And when Cass has no mana, she is basically useless, and you will be forced to back. So just farming early game until you can back to get your Tear of the Goddess is something I highly recommend. Only spam your Twin Fang on the enemy champion if you're 100% sure you will come away with the kill. At level 2, you want to take Noxious Blast, which is your Q. This ability blasts the target area, dealing magic damage and poisoning all enemies hit. You can use this either to push the wave or poke down your enemy laner. If you do manage to hit your enemy laner with Q, this is the best time to poke them down with E, because your damage is amplified. Once again, be wary of your mana and the mana costs early game, and don't spam this ability too much. At level 3 or 4, you can get your W, which spits toxic clouds, poisoning, slowing, and grounding the enemy champion. This ability should mostly be used as a zoning tool or to catch fleeing targets. After your first back, you should now have Tear of the Goddess. Once you have this item, you can start using your abilities a lot more often to start stacking the item. For the most part, you should be spamming your E ability on last hitting minions. Also, it is very important to keep an eye on the blue buff timing and make sure you're able to get it from your jungler whenever you can. Blue buff is very vital on Cassiopeia. In fact, out of all the champions in the game, she probably benefits the most from blue buff. After getting your Tear of the Goddess, you should then look to get Abyssal Scepter and Morellonomicon as your next 2 items. Your remaining 3 items after that can be something like Rylais, Void Staff, and Zonyas. Obviously, you can mix it up a bit if need be. For example, against a full AD team, you can look to get Zonyas as a 2nd or 3rd item, or if you really need the slow, you can get Rylais much earlier. But for the most part, Tear into Abyssal, into Morellos, into Rylais, into Void Staff, and then finally Zonyas is a really good standard build path. As for your all-in combo, it should be something along these lines. Alt while they are facing you, so this applies a stun rather than a slow, followed by Q, W, and then just spam E. You can also include flash into this combo. Alt flashing is a very deadly combo from Cass, and if timed well can easily win you a team fight. Finally, we'll talk about skill order. You should always max E first, followed by Q, then W, and obviously your ultimate whenever you can. Farming on Cass mid to late game is really easy because of the low cooldowns of Q and E. There is really no excuse to not have decent CS on Cass. To sum things up, overall Cassiopeia's biggest weakness is her early game due to her mana costs. You should always look to survive the early game and farm as best you can. Once you get a few items, that's when you can start being a lot more aggressive and make more plays around the map. If played correctly, you should deal tons of damage and late game become this unstoppable monster. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave a like. And as always, have a nice day. Woo!